Hello and welcome to Tales from the Tavern, episode 7, Sea of Thieves official podcast. You've tuned in because you're either a big fan of the game and our studio, or because you're a huge fan of Daniel Radcliffe and John Oliver, who are also joining us today.
That's why you were asking the names beforehand. That's what he was setting up.
We have several videos have gone out between the last podcast and this podcast. It's been slightly longer since we did the last one. So if you haven't checked them out, we've got 2 developer gameplay videos which are out there. That was our kind of new series that we introduced in the past month or so. We've got the Wider World Inside Story, showcasing our expanded areas in the map. The Voyage system, and how that fits into the quests that we do. And our content update, which was our big one, which introduced skeletons and the wider world. So I'd encourage you to jump over to YouTube and check those out if you haven't already, and also to just remind people about the Insider program, and if you haven't signed up for that already, get over there, fill out the survey, and get in there and you make yourself eligible for a place to play the game, future play sessions. So just go around the table and introduce. Will we start from the left this time, just to mix things
Also,
up? I don't know what I'm doing.
Just a point that you're John Oliver and Daniel Radcliffe doesn't make sense if people are listening. They might think we actually have them here, so we don't actually have them here.
They can
So
Google.
it does for me though, because I sound
Yeah,
like
that's what I was going to say. It's
Daniel
like,
Radcliffe. So for Mike, it's the look. For me, it's things. So it doesn't really work unless they're watching. And I suppose.
but it's like you win one way or the other. Like it's like.
No, I sound like Daniel Radcliffe with a cold today. So.
It was a long fight. It's Voldemort.
Yeah, it was.
The immune system's taking a hammering.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay, so we'll go from left.
Christina Parker, live campaign producer.
Emma Bridle, social media manager.
John McFarlane, community video manager.
Mike Chapman, lead designer.
And Joni, executive producer.
Sweet. So as always, what we're going to do is jump firstly into our community content and see what's been going on in the community in the past 6 weeks?
7 weeks, yeah.
And just to give people, because we got some feedback last time, you want to know what's coming up. So we're going to do, after this, we'll do a kind of game update and talk about what's been happening with the game itself, and then just a general update of what we've all been up to. So if you want,
Is that just
stay tuned.
so if they don't find any of that interesting, they'll
They
just
can
fail?
skip.
Well,
they don't care about the community.
Fair enough.
Yeah.
Straight to the game.
We've just lost most of the views.
Yeah.
Oh.
We can watch that graph.
Like the YouTube one, get sad when it's my part and everyone's just... Well, it's been 6-7 weeks. I'm just trying to think about. We did a live Q&A with Joe and Mike in the insider area of the forums, which was, we sort of set it up. I thought, hey, this is a cool idea, let's see if it works, and kind of went into it thinking, what if only 2 people show up and we just sit there for an hour looking at a blank screen? But we had more questions than we could get to answer. We actually extended it by half an hour just to try and get to more people.
Would have been easier, wouldn't it?
Yeah,
If there
that
just 2 people had turned up.
That flew by as well.
Yeah.
It's like it's quite stressful keeping on top of it, wasn't it?
Yeah.
Especially when I forgot to actually quote the post at the start, and then made it really difficult for people to sort the answers. Just replying to everyone individually. I've learnt a lot about live Q&As.
Well, we'll do another one.
Yeah.
We'll let people know by email when we're doing it, but I think it was a really good experience for people to sort of have direct access to you guys. And Christina came and sat in on it and just kind of watched the chaos.
I'm a professional lurker, so I was definitely just sitting in there watching everything happen.
Yeah, she said, can I come and watch? I was like, I don't know what you're going to be watching. It's all of us just typing furiously at our laptops, but
No, it was fun to watch.
it was really good. We've had more and more people start doing Sea of Thieves videos on YouTube, so people who are making videos, we are seeing them. We're doing regular scans for those, sharing out what we can. I'm trying to think. We broke 5,000 people on the subreddit. I think the last podcast we just broken 4, so we've passed 5,000 subs on the subreddit now.
5,200 or something.
Yeah.
Like that.
Rocket Gaming did a song inspired by Sea of Thieves, which is permanently stuck in my head now, which was good.
Amazing.
Yeah.
I
John
love
said
that
he would
song.
dance to it if it was played at a club on a weekend.
Definitely.
Yeah.
It was actually really good.
It's really catchy, really catchy.
Just love that criteria. That's the test.
Yeah.
We had
That
someone...
scene from Alan Partridge dancing in my head. The music, the flashing lights.
Yeah.
and stuff. Maybe it's because the lights in here are just making me think.
Definitely lots of limbs involved. Not exactly
I don't know,
involved.
is Alan Partridge a thing in the US? Are people going
Sorry.
to get that joke?
I have no clue who
They
he
can go
is.
into just.
It's a thing in the UK and I don't know what they're talking about, so...
Yeah, there's just a really
It just
memorable dancing scene. You should go and look it up,
later.
everyone.
Someone on
It'll
the
be on YouTube.
forums was making Sea of Thieves wooden coins. Did you see those?
Yeah.
And he was giving
Yes.
those away
Yeah.
to other people in the community. That was really cool.
Just like to say, I want one.
Just putting it out there.
I definitely want one. They were very cool.
They were very cool.
Yeah.
So it's just amazing the number of people who are creating things, whether it's videos or physical things or art. And we are seeing it all. We do keep an eye on everyone in a non-creepy way.
I'm always watching Professional Lurker.
Yeah. We really appreciate all of it that's being put together.
Anything in the forums or thing that you picked up on that you want to chat about?
Well, I think it's fair to say, like obviously the forum kind of asked me anything, questions stuff went really well. Like there was loads of people talking, loads of people throwing questions at us, and I think I went home and sat there till about 9 or 10 that evening, just kind of answering the ones that had come in at the end and we didn't get a chance to speak to. But and there has been some conversation on the forums, like I know a lot of people talking about the NPCs kind of stuff based on some of the answers. So that's definitely a topic we do want to talk about. We're just figuring out the best way to kind of do that, right? Whether it's a video or it's a kind of post in the Reddit and on the forum or something. But we want to talk to that. We want to answer that. We know there's been a lot of questions and a lot of feedback. So we are listening. We understand that it's a topic close to everyone's hearts, right?
Brief community update today, and then we're moving on.
Sorry, my memory is so bad. If you did something amazing and I forgot you, I'm really sorry. Put it in the comments.
So we're straight into the game update, and so in the time that since we were last in the podcast, we've had the technical level at 0.1.1, which was our like wider world taming new seas update. Yeah. And then we've had the 0.1.1.1, which was
and a bonus session in January as well.
And a bonus session in January, which was before the 0.1.1.
Yes.
So
that was 0.1.0.4.
Yes, it was.
There you go. Boom.
Joe was on top of it. That was good, Joe.
Yeah. I can remember our naming convention.
Yes.
We did it that way, so it's easy to remember.
The titles work beautifully. A Quest for Gold, Taming New Seas.
Yeah.
Works. Encapsulates it all.
So that kind of really, that was like especially for people who played the Quest for Gold update, the Taming New Seas update was quite a big update, like world scale. So do you want to talk about like what was in that update? And
sure. I mean, I guess the sheer size of the world increasing, bringing in those 3 regions, and then adding the skeleton threat. So. Obviously, in previous tests, going to the islands, you're pretty much unhindered unless you'd bumped into other players. Now exploring these new world regions that feel different, having this sense of a longer journey, but then being impeded by skeletons on the island, like using the guns in tackling the environment rather than just tackling other players, like fundamentally different way to play. So very different. Yeah,
and what I love is that I've not visited so many of these islands because I've not had the opportunity to. I've not played the game enough. So I was playing this weekend just with 3 strangers that I randomly got a match made with, and we got to an island I'd never been to before. So I was kind of like, even though I knew the mechanics pretty well and I could follow the maps quite well, but it was still a new island, and so it was still kind of like, oh, where am I? What's this? What's going on? Yeah. So it was super cool. I got to play it like a first time player almost. So it was great.
And the feedback we got after the Quest for Gold update was all around, are there going to be bigger size of islands and how are islands going to differ? And I think we've started to show more of a range of islands that are in there that they do go quite large, and there's obviously more islands incoming as well.
There's one island in the sort of wilder sea, which is just a nightmare. It's got like sort of rings of rock outcrops in it. I've done 2 play sessions where I've had to go find it on that island. I think it took us like 40 minutes.
Quite a big island, is it?
With Craig and Hanno, who's Craig's boss, the other week. It's so
Sounds
confusing.
Like the island you went to. I think it's Old Faithful, I think.
I'm not good at map reading at the best of times, but it's just but challenging. So,
Always reuse the compass. Compass is the tool to use.
Yeah, I'm one of these
struggling.
stubborn people. Like, I don't need the compass. I can figure it out from here. And evidently, I can't. But yeah, when we all played together in the session that went out as the developer gameplay video. Yeah, that was the first time I'd played against skeletons, played in the sort of the wider world.
Me too.
And the noise the skeletons make when they die, it's like nails on a chalkboard to me. It's horrible. It's just, but yeah, fun.
it's funny. I think we can do a lot with audio. Like I think we can do a lot unique as well.
Yeah.
Some of the stuff we've got in flight at the moment, where we just did the team update this afternoon, right? And the noise of that thing that that died. It was really cool. Like the kind of the goal for that was like I want to feel remorse when this thing dies.
It's quite sad.
Charity and I was
was
sitting in the front row going, "Oh."
Yeah. So.
Perfect. I got you then.
Yeah. But that's it. You want to feel remorse when
Yeah.
you. I think it captures
Just
it
being very
perfectly.
cryptic.
Yeah, but I just think,
Just
but I think
trying.
we can do loads with our audio like that.
Yeah.
I think we can do a lot unique, right? Have a bit of fun with it. I always go back to Serious Sam back in the day, like PC first-person shooter. That the sound design for that game was incredible. Like there were these enemies that they basically had. I can't remember if the bombs were on their head or their hands. I think they had them on their hands, and they'd just run towards you from like a mile
On the
away.
hands.
And they'd just be shouting, going "Ah!" And as they got closer and
It's a
closer,
great
you'd
moment.
kind of hear them, and you'd be like, "Wait, what's that?" And then you'd just hear them getting louder and louder and louder as they're coming towards you, and then they'd suddenly appear over a hill, and they're just running towards you with these bombs on their hands, and then they explode as they get close to you. But like that kind of sound design that really ties into the gameplay really well. I'm always inspired by that kind of stuff, and I think we've got such a great like audio and music team here that we can do so much. But we can, right? Like so much with all of our features, and I think like because we're a fantastical world, we can mess with things a little bit too, right? It doesn't have to be 100% realistic. So
Like the skeleton spawning noise.
yeah,
I now find I can
it's
hear it. I'm
fantastic,
going.
isn't it?
I've heard one, but I can't see it yet. But I know it's there, and it puts you on edge.
Yeah, and definitely in this weekend's playtest, I think now that we've tuned the spawning so they are less frequent, now it is actually in a moment, isn't it? It's like, oh, okay, because you've just dug up the chest and then suddenly it happens, and you're like, okay, where are they? We're in danger.
Yeah.
Like you say, it's just, I think it works really well.
You get those differences now of sometimes they spawn when you first get to the island. Sometimes you might be exploring in a cave, or it's after you get the treasure, or just before you get back to the boat. You're seeing obviously these encountering them in different ways.
Talking about like caves, like we previously hadn't shown anything like that beforehand, so it was really interesting to see. I think the last one was maybe the 2015 trailer. We showed the entrance to a cave, and then went inside it, and it's really cool to now see. And I think they look gorgeous, inside.
I haven't been in one yet.
Massive props to the lighting team as well.
It kind of goes back to obviously your comment around exploring on Old Faithful. It's like we want. The design of the islands there are these ones you can just nip on. You know exactly where the X is because it's left of that iconic rock structure, or the physical dimensions of the island are so small it's very quick to find it. Then you've got islands that are deliberately symmetrical, so you've got that little bit of confusion. We've done that deliberately to create these different encounters that you can have on the island, these different scenarios. And the caves are another kind of area of interest on the island that give that island something unique and something memorable. So the first time you visit an island, you might never find that cave system. The next time you go there, one of your crew says, "Oh, let's head in there. Maybe there's some barrels in there." So it's tiered discovery was kind of the term we used to use in design. Which
it's like So is it?
I did that downcast look because I thought you were going to criticise tiered discovery there. As a term I'd use, and you just go, "Whatever, Mike. Whatever." Just means you can find stuff. You didn't take the bait.
I know. I've got you trained well though, haven't I?
True. I was already making apologies.
Never mind.
Yeah, but like so Devil's Ridge, right?
Yes.
So I think all of the islands we've got in our world are kind of stages for gameplay to happen.
That's right. Yeah.
But as we add more gameplay and we add kind of like variety to the quest system or whatever, like suddenly we'll be using the islands in much more kind of interesting ways than perhaps they're being used now, right? And we'll be adding things to the islands, like so. I tweeted a picture of just like one of the cave paintings that's like one of the teams working on, and that like Devil's Ridge is suddenly there's so much more to it than there was when we first put it in, and I don't even like there's a cave system there now. I'm not sure if that was in the latest build or not. I don't even know what's in the real world.
It was in the video.
Yeah, and I don't know if the waterfall was on there or not.
That wasn't, but
that'll be in the future test. And so like there's going to be a waterfall on that big kind of overhang and stuff, and then there'll be hidden things in there. But our quests and our will drive you around these areas, right? And suddenly those cave paintings will mean something, right?
Exactly.
And I just love that we're starting with this environment, this island, and then as the game grows and evolves, there's suddenly there's going to be more meaning.
It's markers of people who've been there before.
Yeah.
I'm not the first person here. This has got history. There's more of a story here than just me.
Exactly right, and they feed into the mechanics and feed into the game. I think there's so much there, and I'm so excited about some of that stuff I've seen. That's why I'm just tweeting photos of people's desks, mostly, because I'm excited and I want to share more.
No, you're right. I mean, that's the cool thing, where typically in other games, other experiences. Like you've got games where they're pretty worlds and it's pretty scenery, but not a lot of that is part of the core gameplay. It's just it's something to be around you while you're enjoying those mechanics. Well, we're trying to, a lot of the great work that the art team are doing, like making the world feel like this kind of lived in space. It's got a sense of history. We want to pull in as much of that into the quest system, into kind of things we'll add in the future. Yeah. So it's not just a pretty place.
One thing I hate that is in now is the fall damage, because I can no longer just like be on the top of a cliff and be like, oh, I need to get back to ship. I'm just going to fall off. Yeah, because I fall out of the crow's nest a lot. I've now figured out 3-4 times I'm dead. So.
Well, that means, like, speaking of Devil's Ridge, I mean, when we were designing that island, the first thing we did was ensure that the ground below the peak, we kind of dropped it down so you could fall in the water. So the idea was you can make your way all the way to the peak, and then rather than having to wind your way back down the island, you can just jump off with a chest or whatever, jump off with for another reason.
Because that's like, obviously, because of fall damage, you kind of have to work your way back round and down again, which makes the challenge of having the chest like another thing when you have skeletons around you and you have all these like emerging threats. Like it's just
not great for the clumsy player.
It makes teamwork more important. It's, not everybody actually has a role. You can't just like get on an island and spread out and go find a treasure. It's like, somebody has to be looking at a map. Somebody has to be with their weapon prepared. Somebody maybe has to have a shovel or a lantern if it's nighttime. So I like that what you were saying earlier about now how the skeletons have really changed player behavior, and it seems like roles and things are more important now.
Yeah, and I had that the weekend again playing with strangers. We're just on an island, and I think one of us was digging, the other person had their lantern out because it was at night, and then the other two just had their guns and were fighting off skeletons. And I was like, wow, people are actually doing it. It's not just all just bollocks, basically. But it is like people, in the wild are doing this. They're using the different mechanics and they're using that together and taking on those roles. It was super, because it's the first time I've played, I think, with players at home. Normally I've been here in the broadcast lab playing with us, and we encounter other players, but it's not the same as when you're in a crew with them and just working together. It's amazing. There's something really special about that.
But it's done in a very logical, organic way. We're not forcing players to stay together. But the best crews, the people who succeed, are the people that watch each other's backs. They plan ahead, they strategize. They're the people that will win out in a ship battle or finding the X super quick. It's that communication and that teamwork. That's what we always wanted. So it's great to see that. We get to use the word ganking now, don't we?
Yeah.
Which
So,
edit the lexicon.
Yeah. So like we saw in the Let's Play video, it's like we like.
I'm not sure we're using the terminology ganking right in that video.
Definitely not.
No.
Yeah, but,
whatevs, basically.
Whatevs.
Yeah. I mean, the main thing is the outposts. Outposts are choke points for players. They are a place where you do kind of, you cash out your progress, and then it's a start. Eventually, it'll be the start of another adventure. But the key thing is that player has the choice. If they see a ship at an outpost, they can take them on, or they can push on to another outpost. I think that's what's critical about it.
Yeah, it was interesting in that video watching the decision between Christina and Joe, being like, Joe's like, Christina's like, no, we should definitely avoid them.
Yes.
To another outpost.
Yeah.
Like, and you're like, no,
because they screwed us over before, right? Like in the earlier on in the session, that we'd been sunk with 4 chests and lost them all, and it was like, no, let's now we're gonna own these guys.
No,
and then,
see, what I think we learned from that is always listen to Christina.
that was.
I think it's even like the smaller things that we've added that we don't necessarily like shout about, but like the lanterns on the ship. Like, those are like when I was playing in the play session, like it was like it was really interesting to see like people using that, like turning them off at night time to kind of like try and sneak past, or like.
Well, that's it. It's kind of like it's making the world as interactive as possible. Just being able to turn the lanterns off, but then tying in that cool gameplay of, we deliberately had the compass just catch that little bit of light from the lantern. So if you wanted to see the compass clearly, someone next to you can hold the lantern up and show the compass, or you put one of the lights on, but then you sacrifice the fact that you're stealthy in the world. I think that trade-off is what makes it really interesting.
I think we used the lanterns because you were on the island and you were like
I'm
using it as a beacon for Emma and I to like swing around and pick you up, and then when we were going to go and kill somebody else, but it has multiple purposes, and I thought it was a great usage.
I've only killed someone once. Yeah. I'm usually the one that just gets shot in the face whilst I'm still trying to figure out how to aim. It's not my skill set. combat.
But it's definitely as well a big kind of tonal change, like seeing the different seas come in, because we've only ever really seen that.
Yeah.
I think the Taming New Seas trailer really confused people because a lot of it is that sort of wilder sea with a different colour palette. But people didn't realise it was a new area, I think, right away. So they kept going, what have you done? What have you changed? It looks different. Why is it different? Wait and see.
Yeah, and then or people, and sort of the way the video got it across, but then being completely separate seas rather than within the sea. And you can seamlessly sail between it. That's kind of the cool thing about it, that you're on a voyage and you start somewhere that looks and feels very different, and then you seamlessly transition to a place that again looks and feels very different.
The water's a different colour, the sky's a different colour.
It just makes you feel, you kind of think back on the session, you think, oh, we've travelled a really long way and we've done a lot of things because the environment's changed around you. That's what's so cool about it.
And that kind of ties into the voyage system stuff. Like, there was a slight bit of confusion around that when people were playing it as to what the voyage system was, because we never really touched on that on the Taming New Seas video. So we kind of tried to react to that and released the voyage
Andy
system
Shelley video,
and the Shelley video to kind of clear some of that up. But it's safe to say that's like it's a foundation to.
Yeah, I ventured onto the forums a couple of days ago and I just described it as a beautiful meal, and then really wanted to go back edit the post.
Meal.
So this is the thing.
See, this is where I would have. Yeah,
well,
you need me on your shoulder going, seriously, mate.
It was early.
I do it for the benefit of you, Mike. I do.
Yeah, it's true. People people will get to grips with what I mean. No, it was early in the morning. I'd woken up early. I thought I'd catch up on the forums, and I thought I'll pop in and offer a bit more clarification. But what I meant was I wanted to go back in and add a smiley face or a wink, just like, oh, I'm joking. But what I meant was the voyage system is a framework. And the meal example was that the voyage is a meal, and then there's ingredients as part of that meal. So the X marks the spot maps are one ingredient.
Okay.
So we've added them to the framework, and that framework can mean that we'll ask you to sail different distances, we'll give you different maps, we'll give you multiple maps at the same time to give players more choice and ensure that you're not getting maps for an island you've already visited. So even with that one ingredient, it's making that voyage, that end-to-end experience have a start, a middle and end and feel richer. But then imagine in the future, obviously we want to add further ingredients, different quest types.
Yeah.
And then the voyage system is that container that ties it all together as part of imagine it like a story arc. It's got a start, a middle and an end. Okay. So right now, the way that surfaces in the build is that you've got some cool black borders coming down that give you that sense of pace. The music swells at moments when you feel good. So when you find a chest, the music will swell and introduce another chapter. But then when we add more things to it in future, the voyage system is just going to get richer, better and more compelling. So
it's like right now we're currently shopping at the corner store for our ingredients, right? But as we add more and more, we're going to be going to like Sainsbury's or
it's more of a
Waitrose.
It's more of a ready meal.
We need to convert this for Americans.
Ready meal with
you started at Walmart and you're going to end up at Whole Foods.
Yes,
there you go.
There you go.
For people who don't understand Sainsbury's.
I just got.
But the ingredients are always organic, right? Always high quality. Always the best ingredients.
Made with love.
Yeah.
So you like a 3-course
seasoned
meal?
well.
Because I was thinking, I thought he meant like something was the plate and then something was the gravy.
Oh, you thought it was physical.
No, I was getting confused.
Beautiful meal.
You know we're going to cut this bit, right?
Darn.
I got there eventually. I get it. Yeah.
So, did you read the forum post and not understand it?
No, I didn't read it at all. I'm sorry. I don't know what you're talking about.
Hopefully everyone understands. And then you thought.
Sorry.
I understood it before, but
the meal example was.
The meal example was good.
Oh, okay.
It's all right.
I'll use more food-based
metaphors
in the future.
So, is there have we been hearing any kind of stories out of the?
I mean, us four played together, but it was a few weeks ago. But I can't.
We encouraged people to be sharing stories within the Insider program, didn't we?
Yeah,
and they can share it on the
I don't know if they have been
forum.
on the most recent one.
There's
some tweeting about it earlier
on there.
Okay, cool.
Those posts are great as well. When people actually write them as a story.
Yes.
There's so many people doing that. I love reading those.
We're kind of moving on to the studio update and what's happening on the game. So if we probably want to go around and explain what you're working on at the moment.
Oh, God. Well, I'm spending more time looking kind of internally now. So a lot of my time historically has been kind of looking outside of the team and looking about how we sharpen community stuff or marketing or PR or anything like that. The kind of the external messaging and everything else. But a lot of the time, the last kind of few weeks, I've been looking much more into the team, spending time day to day in the kind of in the daily scrums and looking at some of the new features that we've got in flight kind of going forward. So that's why I've been taking photos of cool things, because there's so much cool stuff we've got, and I think we're definitely thinking about how we can change our kind of public output from almost looking back at stuff we've already shown to now starting to show work that's in progress, and that we're going to be then like prior to it actually coming out to people. Because like in the last podcast we like talked a lot about some of the features, and I think actually like some of the video stuff we want to look at is around can we show that a feature as it goes from almost concept through to in the game, right? Yeah. So I think that's going to be really interesting for people. The engaged type of people who are listening to this podcast, they're going to get so much out of that, I think. Around so we're figuring out how to do that, I think, fairly soon. And we've definitely got some we're definitely going after a lot of the emergent world side of things. So adding emergence into the game, into the world. So as we've put the bigger world in, shipping counters are less frequent, and we definitely want to do. We're doing some work around that, which I guess you can talk to in a sec. Sure. But we definitely want to fill the world with more emergent things that are going to kind of mess with the player, because currently I think the emergence we've got in the game is we give players tools and they can kind of create emergence themselves from them, or encounters with other players can lead to emergent scenarios, but the world's not really giving you much emergence. The skeletons kind of starts it, right? But I think we want to go much more on that. So every time you play, regardless of what you're doing, regardless of what quest you're going on, something should distract you, something should change you, something should potentially give you the opportunity to mess up and make a mistake. So there's a ton of work going on in that kind of area at the moment.
Yeah,
right?
I think that's what we've always meant when we've said, there's this magic of seeing the sail on the horizon, because there's all of these mechanics that are occupying you and your crew and making it feel like you're having this great cooperative teamwork experience. You're not just focused on finding another ship. You're having this great experience together. But when you do see another ship, it's that seamless merging of, I'm playing a co-op game, but now there's another crew out there they're doing the same thing. They're on this parallel adventure, and these paths are crossing. I guess we've got these mechanics that fit in the shared world or the sandbox, all these things that can happen emergently, and then we've got more of the kind of economy progression based stuff that we're looking at, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, totally. Did you want to talk to some of the player feedback stuff just around? Is that, I don't know if that's one of your questions coming up.
We should share some good stuff there. So obviously with the Taming New Seas update, I'm not going to use the numbering convention, but players playing skeletons for the first time, and then getting some really good feedback from the forums, and then in the data, see how many people died from skeletons. We've gone in and we've rebalanced them. So we had a lot of feedback. I mean, on both sides, people saying that they're too easy, they're too hard, they're too accurate, they're not accurate enough. But on the whole, the general kind of sentiment was around them feeling like too much of a nuisance, impeding progress to find the chest too much, and just adding too much frustration. And this is a great example of a feature where we've implemented it, and to balance it is fairly straightforward. So we've gone in and we've made them less accurate, and that kind of feels fine in the sense that they've got, at the moment they're armed with blunderbuss. They're armed with blunderbuss, and they're skeletons. They're not crack shots, and the blunderbuss itself has a natural spread of pellets, so you can still get hit, but you'll take less damage based on the spread that hits you. And at the same time, just the frequency of those waves. I mean, we had it, and it was kind of cool looking back that we had it that way, because we got a lot of feedback and a lot of people are encountering them, but it was probably just too intense. And the way we wanted it to feel was that when you see a wave of skeleton spawn, it's a defined moment, and then your crew rally behind you, you take them down, and then you've got a bit of breathing room again. So the people have actually, if they go and visit an island like Old Faithful, they've got that breathing room to then find the chest. Yeah. And skeletons may or may not spawn, but it's just less intense. So we've made that change. We're really keen to see the feedback we've got from the most recent test. Yep. And the other thing we've been looking at, Joe referred to it, which is the ships on the server. So the goal for us was always that, you may see a ship fairly frequently, but they're a long way off. Whether you decide to engage with them or whether they decide to engage you is kind of all part of that emergence. But looking at the kind of visibility across the regions, it was just that little bit too close in. Because when we were looking at the data, when we were kind of determining the distance of what we class as a sighting, we had to be really conservative. So Ryan, their art director, and the team have been looking at how we can look at the lighting, how we can look at the fog distance to push that out a lot. So players are seeing more ships, even though it doesn't mean that they're going to be attacked. They still can see a ship, and the cool thing is they've got the option to decide if they want to engage.
Yeah, that's it. You don't want it to be so that they're so close when you see them that it's like,
no choice,
you've only got one choice, which is like, engage
engage.
in combat, right?
And it goes back to the regions like the wilds. We deliberately wanted to feel like you can't see as far, but again, that was too close. So that will get pushed back, but it'll still feel different and it'll have that emotive change compared to the different regions.
Yeah. Just on the wilds. That's an internal code name for that
Yes.
world, right?
That's why I kept saying the area that looks more wild.
Sorry,
but that's the kind of the darker, more sulphurous area of the world,
Yeah.
right? Like that's kind of what we called it. We're still figuring out,
Yeah.
like around how we're going to be kind of naming those.
Shorthand.
Yeah, but because I know people will be like, oh, what does that mean?
Yeah, I know.
Yeah, but it's
What's Mike's League
yeah,
again?
but it's very much around that. That's the feeling. It's kind of it.
Yeah.
It's like it's the feeling of that part of the
Yeah.
world. That's why it was kind of named like that. It's very evocative of it. It tells you what it is, right? So,
Yeah.
What is the other new area? What's the code name for that one?
I don't know what the code name is, but everything is more sparkly.
It's just
Like
we
the
never
sand
referred
is
to it.
whiter and the sky is bluer.
Yeah, I
and
mean,
it's-
one's kind of like quintessential. Like just covering the content from the video, but essentially quintessential Caribbean, what you'd expect when you think of a pirate game. Then you've got one that feels a little bit more rugged, feels like wilderness, and then you've got the one that feels like more sulphurous and dark.
what were those
and
two
gloomy.
called though?
They
Yeah,
were
what is
called the Sea of Plenty and the Sea of Plunder. So Plenty was kind of the blue sky, kind of Maldivian atoll kind of feel, and Sea of Plunder was, I think Ryan referred to it as Indiana Jones, which I loved, which was rugged and feels more jungly, denser foliage.
Yeah.
That sunset is red.
I thought you were saying
Yeah.
Indiana Jones was rugged, and then rugged. And, it's rugged and handsome.
Rugged and handsome, dreamy.
It was. It's even more rugged now. Which, but
Yeah, I know. The first time that we went there, I think we were all playing together, and the first time Charity and I, one of our community managers, had to jump in the sea. We're like, we don't want to. It's a funny colour.
Yeah.
It doesn't look like it smells very
it's so great.
nice.
You spend quite a lot of time in the kind of blue sky region, and then you head into the wild. It feels so different.
Very,
and then
very different.
coming back to the other regions
go,
from the Mercury
"Oh,"
region, you're like, relief. I'm kind of back home.
Yeah.
It's cool. I think like you kind of touched what I've been working on over the over the past little while, which is just this idea of making sure our video content kind of does the same thing of like looking at what we're working on now rather than what we're previously
lost
looking
your
back.
train
I've
of thought?
completely lost my train of thought because that noise,
With the
and I'm looking at him
videos,
and he's
we're
smiling.
working on things.
Looking instead of like kind of what we did for E3 was we had that build and we kind of like retrospectively used the inside stories to look back at like let's take a look at that and a bit more like look a bit deeper into like cloud tech and water tech and like show people how we did that. Now we're at a place where we've kind of caught up with ourselves on what's already in the game, and we're saying to ourselves like, right, now we've got the opportunity to say what we're working on right now and give the community a chance to see that, you know, this is a game that's in development. It's not like we're just like slowly releasing features to you to tease you, because this is something we always get with looking at some of the comments on YouTube and stuff like, why are you teasing us with this stuff? It's like we're genuinely trying to give you an insight into how we develop the game
as we develop it.
Yeah, absolutely.
It's definitely kind of looking at how we do that like in our own kind of way rather than, you know, just the same kind of development diaries you might see from other places that we try and put a rare spin on it that we always do. So
Which basically means a pun in the name.
Pun in the name, yeah.
You might have also seen our thumbnail changes.
Yes.
Yeah, I really
yeah,
like those.
that is really good.
So that was definitely on feedback. Sebastian from
Sea of Thieves Central.
Sea of Thieves Central said it ages ago. So good on you, Sebastian. We were.
Well, we had some of the members of Yogg's cast in, didn't we? Recently, actually. I think it was
With
2 weeks
Hannah,
ago.
Martin and Kath.
Yeah, exactly. So, we had the four of them just come in just as like a bit of a consultancy thing, really, where we just wanted them to come in. We wanted to play the game with them and actually have some discussions with them around, the game, like, how suitable is it for streamers and YouTubers and creators and
Content creators.
Yes, exactly. Yeah. So, but how suitable is it for people like that who do this every day, who play games and build an audience, and what are their audience looking for from them, right, around games, and how shareable is it, and what things can we do to make it more so? And it was really fascinating to have those people in. But then,
great,
but then we were like, "Oh, take a look at our YouTube channel, won't we?" And I know you had some of this stuff already in the works, right, all the plans, but man, they were in their element when they were just tearing it apart, basically, like. I think, but like they were just going at it, right, and just like here's like, and go and look at your telemetry, look at this, look at that, and it's like, it was amazing. And now, and I'm not, I know you had a lot of this stuff in progress, but like just in terms of how it looks visually now, night and day, right, and super cool. But it was really interesting to get that group of people in, and we'll definitely be doing more of that.
Because some of the times, like, you definitely like you're so engrossed in what you're doing here, you don't see some of the really obvious things you could be doing. And these guys live and breathe this every day, so it's like it's great to hear some of the feedback.
You don't have like 1.2 million followers by accident, right? It's like it's amazing, right? So,
I like that we've got some people in them. Although for the previous podcast, the person that's been sitting in this chair had the face on the thumbnail.
Yeah.
Oh, Cameron.
No.
Who was sitting here before then?
We had Graham on the last one and Reese on the one before that. Does that mean Christina's face is going in this one? Yeah. So you got to do some good facial expressions down the camera.
That you just
thumbnail. That was my contribution.
Because the one that had Reese on it, I sent it to him, and he's got it as his cover image on Twitter now.
That's cool.
Yeah,
nice. That was my Photoshop mad skills.
Skills with a Z on the end. You're just showing off how cool everyone really is.
John's cringing off.
It's just that you're nervous laughter.
It's like, I made a joke. Go on.
Yeah. Emma, I'm passed on to you. Go on.
For what?
What have you been working on?
What have I been working on? Keeping the channels going, keeping them full of content, looking at what we're doing, why we're doing it, how we can do new things.
You've been reaching out to some other creators that have expressed an interest in our game before, right? And so we're thinking about how we can get those people into the studio just to come and say hi and chat with us, play the game, give us their feedback, give us their thoughts. Right? I think that's going to be a lot of fun. So.
Yeah. I do actually do work because I realise every time you ask me what I've been working on, stuff and things, and I can't really talk about it. It is a lot of work. It's just not making stuff for the game. Keeping channels running on its own is three Twitter accounts, 2 Facebook pages, 2 YouTube channels, Instagram, 2 website articles, the forums, the subreddit, clubs, game hubs. Like all of it needs content. So that's.
If you could get a really sad music track just playing slightly louder and louder when you do the audio of the podcast over that bit, that'd be great.
Almost like you're
No, I just
if someone ever asked me, what do you do? Just in the mirror.
I've spent the last 2 or 3 weeks doing interviews. I have to be like, "Hi, I'm Emmett. This is what I do." So I've just gotten formulaic with rattling off of. We have this.
You can't remember 0.1.1, but you can.
Last podcast, I couldn't remember my name. If you remember, so it's this.
It's steps forward.
This is a big improvement.
Yeah. But anyway, Christina.
Do you want to explain a bit of like what your job role is as well? Because first time you're on
new.
here.
Plus, I can't remember when you started.
I started in October.
Wow. Okay.
I've been here longer than it feels like, which is a good thing. That's a good thing.
I think most of it's been getting used to the weather because Christina's from Florida.
I'm from Florida.
We're now in the UK.
Freezing.
Yeah.
Daffodils are nice though. We don't have those in Florida.
Yeah.
No shipwrecks off the coast. There's no coast in Twycross, but.
Oh no, but that's the thing is I've been like prepared for this game for my entire life because I grew up on the Treasure Coast in Florida, so I go scuba diving, so I've seen sunken treasure ships, and I've gone to like treasure museums, like that's a thing in Florida. So basically, that's outside that window was outside my window. So yeah, what do I do? The thing that I always say, I like to call myself the coordinator of fun, and I've said this to everybody.
Coordinator of fun.
Coordinator of fun.
Okay.
Those 2 words don't go together.
Yeah, no.
I know. I love it though.
Supervisor.
Fun with
supervisor.
rules.
Fun. Yeah. Well,
I prefer Dreamweaver. You could be a Dreamweaver.
that's an application in Adobe. So.
I wasn't going there, but
I know. So Dreamweaver, that'd be great though. So I'm the live campaign producer, which means that ultimately, there will be campaigns and events that we're running in game that will be planned and implemented, and just to add a little spice to your already fun gameplay. Essentially, what do you guys think? Is that a good way of explaining it?
It is, but it's just about during at the moment the game we're in these scheduled play sessions.
Yeah,
right? So
and those are the campaigns right now. It's the live events.
They are kind of small targeted campaigns where we're trying to drive the amount of people to a certain time and certain everything.
And that's exactly what I do right now.
Yeah, but as the game grows and evolves and gets into a 24/7 state where anybody can play at any time, that's you're going to want to give people interesting reasons to come back, interesting opportunities to come play, like all of that side of things. Right? It's about I think
keeping things fresh.
It is right. There's always reasons to return, reasons to come back, cool exclusive things, just above and beyond any kind of retention mechanics in the game itself.
Definitely.
Right?
Some sort of re-engagement.
Yeah.
And also retention. It'll just be like fun little things or different player motivations or
but it's just like
holidays.
There'll always be new things for people to do, right, and reasons to come back. And I think that's a really interesting role to be kind of taking on.
It is. I think it's unique because it's new for Rare, and I think it's a lot of fun to kind of forge my own way in this path. And like you were saying now, so what I work on now is we have these play sessions, and so I kind of drive a lot to do with them, somewhat when they're going to be, maybe what the goals are for each one. I'm associated with inviting people into it. Sorry, don't crucify me.
I can see you tensing up.
I know.
It is a critical role though, because we're you could argue up until now we can kind of manage without that, because it's a core game. We're still building the core foundations of the game, and we can say, well, we've added a bucket, we've added resources, and it's a cool. Cool. That's a cool reason for me to play again. But as the game gets bigger and we build on that foundation, we're not going to be able to go, we've added these 3 things. I guess your role is to kind of tie that into an experience.
It is.
It's
taking
those mechanics, put it into experience, and go, we've added this whole new experience.
Definitely.
That's
so it's taking the bucket and making it more than just a bucket.
Exactly.
It's taking it. But it's true.
Bucket.
It is. I know the bucket. So you take the bucket, you take this, you add a few other things together, you wrap it in a nice, pretty present, and you make an experience for the players.
Yeah. And I think some of the stuff we've talked about around ideas around this stuff I think are really interesting, of almost mixing community activities and in-game activities and rewards, right? Like giving a series of clues out to our community to work over together before then surfacing something in-game that you can then, if you figure it out in the real world, you can go, okay, and then you can go into the world and find it at this place at this time.
That's something I'm really excited to
I love some of those ideas, and so I think we can do something really interesting with this, especially with this type of game, right? Where a lot of it will be puzzle solving and figuring things out.
I think the community is itching for it right now. I don't know if you saw the thread that they wanted to implement their own event in game over this past.
No, I didn't.
They did. They
shout out to Pixel Bandits.
Yes.
Oh wow! Yeah. Okay.
Yes, they tried to implement a race in game. I don't know how it worked, but I know how you feel. But
a ship race.
Yes, a ship race.
See, that's awesome. Like so many people have asked for ship races. It's incredible.
So
Phil Spencer wanted a ship race.
It's just a private.
Oh yeah, we've talked about it. So
it gets suggested so many times.
It does.
It's a race again.
It is. It's not the first thing you think of when you think
of
ships, and the open sea is kind of a race. So it was fun that the community tried to implement something themselves, and I want to follow up and see how it went. If they got it done or whatnot, please tell me.
I'll put you in touch with them.
Yeah, I want to know.
Cool. Right, well, straight on to talking about the community. Some questions from the community. You can go with the first one.
Okay. Do this one. Okay, so this one's from Jeffrin, who we all know. He came on the fan visit last year, so hi. He said, the new Sea of Thieves Alpha update looks different. Lighting system update, or is it the added mist, fog, haze that is doing that?
Well, I was going to say that I think the art team, whether it's islands, assets, like 3D props, I think always we kind of get it in there to kind of unlock that kind of key player value. But then those guys are then free to polish and improve it. And that's not something where we're going to draw a line in the sand and stop working on that stuff. There'll be ways to keep making it better. So things like the lighting may improve again. And again, the things we talked about earlier around the visible distance.
Yeah.
Like the appearance of that fog will change as we push it back, so players can see more ships. So I think it's just those guys just doing awesome things and making things look better. It did look better in the last update, and I'm sure it will again.
Yeah, and like I said, just the stuff around on the islands as well. You're gonna see that really grow and evolve, right? And back to the visibility point. One of the things Ryan, our art director, was talking about in the team update today around the ship's lanterns at night, and that are now much more visible from distance at night. So you'll really, like, during the night, if you see a ship's within a couple of kilometers, you'll see their light in the distance if they haven't turned off all the lanterns, and so you're gonna feel like there's more in the world. And what is that? It gives that that sense of mystery, and all of that stuff starts playing with distances and and of all the different parts and stuff. So there's going to be.
It'll also add to the player feeling, because you know how you were talking about like when the music, when the skellies pop up, you get a little like anxiety. It'll be the same thing. It's at night you're like, oh, you're anxious because like, do you want to risk the lanterns being on so you can see better, or what if someone sees you and attacks you?
But it's like, is that a ship or is it a building, like on
an
outpost? What is it?
Yeah.
Right?
And then you have to go
And then is it moving or is it because we're moving? So.
And I think with the wider world, with the seas that all look different, I think, as I said in the trailer when we showed the sort of wilder things, people going, it looks different. What's different?
I think like going back to Christina's role, that's what's so cool about working on a game like this, where you make one small change, add one thing, and it like changes and creates stories for people. Like the whole seeing the outpost lights versus the ship lights. Like players might go down to the ship's map and go, oh, there is an outpost in that direction. It's probably not a ship. There's just that, it kind of sparks new kind of scenarios for players. That's what's so cool about it. But lighting will, I'm sure, continue to be tweaked.
Well, this next question kind of ties into that. So Michael on Twitter using the hashtag Tavern Talk. It says, in IGN's Unlocked, Phil Spencer said, Sea of Thieves is a service-based game, and he even quotes 36 minutes in. So what does that mean?
It's a game that constantly grows and evolves, right? And we've already talked to kind of Christina's role and how that has to, it's to service the game, right?
Yeah.
But it is, though, isn't service the players, isn't it?
Right.
And so it's going like, it's never just going to reach a point and stop. Right, like
exactly.
It's always going to be growing, always changing, always evolving, always new things to do, reasons to come back. Like that's what it means, right? And it's why we've. I think we're on content update like number 80 or something, right? In the or roundabouts there in terms of our weekly releases. To Xbox, right, and PC, and so it's. We've set ourselves up like that to actually deliver regularly to players, so we can constantly update, constantly grow, constantly fix issues, add new things. Like that's how we've set up our entire studio. It was the biggest cultural shift possible, really, to go from a single release to one where we're now on the 80 odd, and that's what it means, right? It's constantly growing, constantly updating.
There's never going to be a point where we just put the game out and we're done and we just walk away from it.
Yeah, and there's something which I think like players will be aware of when they. Are listening to this podcast is around although we're going to be sticking to these kind of scheduled play tests for players around when we bring in new features, and we're trying to drive as many people towards that, both for when we've got new stuff to test, but also we're trying to kind of drive our concurrency of players, so the amount of players playing at a single time, right? We hit our target for the most recent play test, didn't we? We just exceeded that on CCU, which was super cool, and it all worked, which was nice, right? Because that was by far our record in terms of like players that have played at the same time. So we're going to be doing those, but also for people who have been invited to the playtests, now every Wednesday from 7 until 10 GMT in the evening, so UK time, we'll just have a weekly session where people can come in and play the latest build. So every build we release weekly won't necessarily have new stuff in, might have some fixes behind the scenes, it might not be the most glamorous thing, but to come in and we expect that to be a small amount of players that will come back every week. But for those, it means we have a much better idea of stability in the game on a weekly basis. We can test our telemetry, we can fix little things, we can see what's changing and evolving, and there will be new features occasionally, but we're not going to be making a big song and dance about it, because we don't kind of want the feedback then, we want it together as the big group when we bring as many people back as possible. But that's a big shift for us, going to that. But that's part of the game as a service, right? Like that we are releasing it weekly, so we want to be testing it weekly rather than waiting every month or something. So
because we want to be iterative, so that means that we want to get that feedback and then we want to act upon it. So if we only have playtests once a month, it makes it really difficult for us to act upon any major feedback.
Yeah, and it's the risk as much as anything of like if we leave it for a month before we test a new build, we're putting so many features in there together that something could go wrong because of all the combination of those. And if we can get on top of that, it means it's little bumps rather than this big kind of
that's
waves.
Yeah. And just a note for that. So I don't know if Phil Spencer does listen to Tales. Listen to Tales from the Tavern, but he did do a very nice shout out to the community team and said that he really likes the way that we're addressing the community with Sea of Thieves. So thank you.
Yeah, absolutely.
We love you too, Phil.
Yeah, that was it. It was a great podcast though, like the IGN one. We all listen to that, right? It's great to hear. I love hearing Phil kind of talk to his passions and the future and his strategy as much as anything. It's great.
I just spoke with him last week, and he was saying all the same stuff. He was just like, "Oh, I love Sea of Thieves. Can't wait for the next playtest." He was like, "Oh, there's one this weekend. I can't wait to play."
Because he's in our insider program, right?
He
He's signed
plays.
up for it in this side, so he gets all the emails, like gets all the bad puns, and
he loves it.
Yeah, and he plays in the weekly playtest. So you could be randomly match made with Mr. Spencer
Someone's
in
commented on the forums that they bumped into Xbox P3
on the Go show.
That's so
I
funny.
kept seeing Phil, but every time I encountered him, he was always on the Go.
He was
show.
always dead.
But that was when we put in the skeletons first of all, and they were really hard,
Yes,
wasn't it?
yeah.
So he was probably just getting.
Of course. You
nailed.
had to qualify.
Yeah,
Had
yeah,
to.
I did.
We
because-
understand. He's a very talented player. Of
He
course
is a
is.
very talented player. Yeah.
So Anubis 316. This probably kind of talks to yourself here.
Okay.
I
I know Nubis.
So
There are several Anubises.
I know this one.
So I
She
says
lurks.
I do. I lurk.
I'm finally in the alpha, but a few days' notice makes it hard with work. Can we please get more notice in the future? Now, I know that might not be possible. So, like, can you talk around why we do what we do?
Why we do what we do? Okay. Well, we do what we do. Because as we were just saying, we release builds and updates every week. So based upon
Internally. I'm just trying to point that out, just
Yeah,
in case
yeah.
people think they're missing out on
No, definitely. The people in the
sessions.
community have noticed because they're commenting that like their Xbox prompts them to download a new version of it every week. So there's discussions that's happened about it. And we've kind of said we're doing things in the back end. Doesn't mean you're able to play every week, but now you will be Wednesdays, 7 to 10 p.m. GMT. But yeah, so based on our release schedule, we don't really often get more than like a week's notice because we want to make sure we have everything in for this build that we want to test. And since we do release on a weekly schedule, it means typically that we don't have more than a week to let you know that we're going to go ahead and test this build. We got everything in that we wanted to, and now we're good. Also, we don't want you guys to like sit and stew on it too much. We like here it is, it's this weekend. The
Be
big,
excited.
yeah, flashy, excited, come and play. And we know that not everybody's going to be able to make it on that weekend, but once you're invited, you're able to come and play in all the future
Once you're
play
in, you're
tests.
in.
Yes, once you're in, you're in. So if you can't make it this one, Anubis, there's the future ones for him to be invited to and come and play.
Yep, and you can read other player stories in the
Definitely.
forums.
All the wrap-ups that you do or the
Yeah.
the pre-reports and things like that. So there's a lot of information and still good ways
to
to,
make
be
you feel
involved.
even if you aren't playing yourself.
Right.
Yeah, but we generally only really know kind of 100% for sure that by the Tuesday, the day before that weekend, that the build's up, it's done, we've tested it in the live environment
Yes.
and everything, and we're good to go. Okay, because there's so many different dependencies, isn't there, around when we do a play session, right?
Definitely.
Like there's all the community messaging, there's getting the club people invited to the sessions, all of these different things. There's like a big email that goes around that
gosh.
people fill in their bits in green and then reply to all with it.
I know. So
All of this stuff.
I was
Yeah.
out last week at GDC and we were having the play session. So I made this really long list of everything I do day by day, so that if I couldn't get to it because I was away, then somebody else would be able to handle it. And that's when I realized I was like, wow, there's so many bits and pieces.
Yeah, so it's there's a lot that goes on behind the scenes that leads to us pressing the send button on the email basically to get to invite people in, right?
So we have one other question, and we'll probably end it on this one. But it kind of like ties around. I know we can't talk about any specifics, but we have been hearing lots about it. And Mo on Twitter says,
Also known as Coach Hulk.
Coach Hulk, says, my question would be, is the game going to allow for savable customization?
Yes. No, I
we're
mean, I obviously spending time reading the forums, that comes up a hell of a lot.
Yeah.
Like, yeah, finding treasure is kind of cool, but what's the point of gold? And of course, that's an area where we're going to build in the future, and there's really cool opportunities on Sea of Thieves, not just to do the things that people expect around the player. We've got the ship as well, and the ship being this cool thing that's shared between the crew. Player being able to customize the ship longer term. We talked about that, and that will be like the progress that people learn within a session. Some of that's going to carry over from session to session, of course. But yeah, we'll be talking more about that in the future. Doesn't feel like a very good answer.
No, yes,
Well, the answer is
details to follow.
yes.
Yeah.
I mean, like sometimes it might seem like an obvious answer to us, like because we're working on it, but like you say, like a lot of people ask it because it's not something we are talking so explicitly about at the moment.
Yeah.
But
Well, it's at the moment people are playing a great session, right? Like that's it. It's a session, and each time you come back, you're kind of starting afresh, starting anew. we know that we have to have things in there that keep players going from session to session.
Now, players start somewhere and they feel like they're going on that tangible journey of I started here, but now I've played 3 sessions and I feel like I've made real, like tangible progress. Yes. That's of course we're going to have that, and customization in different areas of the game. It's just because it's that whole point of we're actively developing the game, we're communicating when we can, when we've got a build, we're giving that for our insiders to play. It's when we're confident in the sequence of how we're going to deliver it. I think that's when we'll start being a lot more open around our plans. But safe to say, yes, Gold will have a purpose.
I think it's just like, as long as we kind of keep communicating, hopefully in the future with these videos, that we are building this game with players. Like at the same time, it's like we say, we don't have this big backlog that we're just slowly teasing out. It's like we're building it with you, and like hopefully you're on this journey with us all the way. And that kind of wraps that up there. So we want to direct anyone who's been listening to it to watch us all on
the
YouTube and
youtube.com/Sea of Thieves.
On the 4Ks, and you get to see the John Oliver reference.
In 4K.
In 4K.
Yeah. Not the first time you've seen Harry Potter in 4K.
No.
I
don't look like Harry Potter.
He looks like the guy
sound
out the
like
Dark
him when
Knight.
I speak
Sounds like Harry
politely.
Potter.
Yeah, I look like Joshua Stewart.
That's his name. Yeah.
I think you've got a bit of Harry Potter about you.
I tweeted him side by side. The two of them.
I wish I sounded and looked like someone cool, though. I mean, that's a good thing you have going for you.
What's that?
That you both look like someone cool and you sound like someone really cool.
I like how you've got something going for you. You look like a celebrity.
No, I mean, like, you got more than that going for you, but maybe it's just the American.
Yeah, let's just stop.
No, it's probably just the American.
Digging since October, right?
What?
Yeah. And just check out the regular video series. They're coming every Thursday now. That's been a change since we last went on. So they're going to arrive every Thursday on our YouTube channels. And tune in again for the next podcast, hopefully in the next 4 to 6 weeks, like somewhere in that region. And just to remind you, hashtag Tavern Talk if you want any questions answered. We always do that at the end of our show. So get those in on Twitter. You usually see it popping up a couple of weeks before the podcast.
We'll give you a warning of when we're about to film so that you can get questions in.
Get questions in with anything around the latest play sessions that you were in or whatever. And want to thank everyone joining us here today for the wonderful stories. And
you're like running out of things.
Running out of things to say. Yeah, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Right.
Bye.
Wait, bye.
Thanks for
Awkward.